When he killed them, they sought him out and turned back and rose up early before God. They remembered God was their helper and the Most High God their Redeemer. But they deceived him with their mouth and lied to him with their tongue, for their heart was not right with him, neither were they faithful to his covenant. But he is merciful and will atone for their sins and not destroy them. And he will multiply them and turn away his anger. And he will not kindle all his wrath, for he remembered they are flesh, a spirit that is passing and not returning. How many times did they rebel against him in the desert and provoke him to wrath in the desert? And they turned away and tempted God and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his hand in the day he redeemed them from the hand of those afflicting them, how he wrought his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the plains of Zoan, and how he turned their rivers and rainfalls into blood so they could not drink. He sent them the dogfly and it devoured them, and the frog and it destroyed them. He gave their fruit to the mildew and their labors to the locust. He killed their vineyard with hail and their mulberry trees with frost. He delivered their cattle to the hail and their property to the fire. He sent forth the wrath of his anger to them, anger and wrath and affliction sent forth through evil angels. He made a path for his wrath. He did not spare their souls from death, and their cattle he enclosed in death. He struck every firstborn in Egypt, the first fruit of their labor in the tents of Ham. And he brought his people out like sheep, and he led them like a flock in the desert, and he guided them in hope, and they were not afraid. And the sea covered up their enemies. He brought them into the mountain of his holiness. This mountain his right hand acquired, and he cast out the nations from before their face, and distributed them a measure of land as an inheritance. And he settled the tribes of Israel in their tents, and they tested and rebelled against the Most High God, and did not keep his testimonies. And they turned away and broke his covenant, just as their fathers did. And they changed into a crooked bow, and they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their carved images. God heard and despised them, and he utterly disdained Israel. And he rejected the tabernacle at Shiloh, his dwelling place, where he settled among men. He gave their strength to captivity, and their beauty into the hands of the enemy. And he gave his people over to the sword, and despised his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their virgins were not lamented. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows were not lamented. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, like a strong man drunk from wine, and he struck his enemies from behind. He gave them eternal reproach, and he rejected the dwelling of Joseph, and he did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. He chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion that he loves, and he built his sanctuary as the place of unicorns. He founded it forever on the earth. He chose David for his servant, and he took him from the sheepfolds. He took him from behind the sheepthroat, gave birth to shepherd Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance, and he shepherded them in the integrity of his heart, and guided them with the skillfulness of his hands.